In our journey through Resident Evil on the Steam Deck, we're going to dive into a game today that you can't even find on Steam when searching the name Resident Evil. It's probably for the best, as it's one of the most hated games in the entire series. I am, of course, talking about the multiplayer tactical shooter that was made that has easily had its user base wiped from existence, making a multiplayer game that has no one to play multiplayer. But it is on the Steam Deck and plays pretty well, so we're going to dive into it. Here is how I've gotten Umbrella Corps to run on the original Steam Deck. For a bit of context, Umbrella Corps is a tactical group-based shooter loosely based on the Resident Evil franchise. It only released on PC and PS4 and was meant for online co-op, so much that some of its story content can only be found via the multiplayer, and the rest are simple text briefings at the mission select screen. Now technically, it takes place after Resident Evil 6 and loosely suggests that Albert Wesker could still be alive, but that's really just a little voice file that's, at best, a non-canon Easter egg. The game does have single-player content in a lot of basic missions you go on, which is pretty much all you can do with it on the Steam Deck, as the PC version's multiplayer scene is either very slow or completely dead. I've never been able to find a single person to match with, let alone the 4-player minimum for said matches. But let's get into the game. What you launch with is your own choice. The performance doesn't change all that much between normal and enabling Proton. I do use Proton Experimental as it did get rid of some of the really small drops I had while playing, but it's your own choice. It's not that big of a change. Now, as I said above, the online user base for this game is basically non-existent, so the online matches aren't really an option on the Steam Deck unless you have 3 friends that also have it on PC. So you're gonna have to stick to single-player missions, the experiment. As you trek through these missions, you'll notice that the settings for visuals need to be lowered to get a high frame rate. When I played the game by default on mostly medium and high settings, I got an average FPS of about 45 to 50. So go into settings and basically turn everything down or off. Strangely enough, the graphics settings are under the PC section of settings rather than video. What I do is 1280 by 720 resolution, variable frame rate, and everything else either off or low. I'd especially recommend turning off occlusion. It had the most noticeable impact on frame rate and keeping things smooth for me. After that, you'll get an almost perfect 60 FPS. There were some combat areas where I'd occasionally see 56 or 58, but overall, pretty much completely fixed. The game still looks good with these lower settings anyway, so you don't lose that much by dropping them down to 60 FPS. This bit is also why I run the game on Proton Experimental. It's very minor, but you do get those 56 and 58 FPS drops more frequently without Proton turned on. And that's basically it. I was never able to test multiplayer matches for performance differences because there were never enough people to form a match, and the game doesn't let you use bots. So that brings us to battery life. Umbrella Corps will give the original Steam Deck around 1.5 hours of total battery life. It's not great, but then again, you could probably get over half the campaign done in that amount of time. Now, as we wrap this up, would I recommend this game to Steam Deck users? Recommend is kind of a difficult word. I wouldn't really call this a great game, but if you're an RE fan like me that wants to experience the whole franchise, go for it. It's on cheap sales often, and it does play quite well on the deck as long as you're okay with lower settings and only playing the single player content. And that's all I have for you today. I'll be back soon with more handheld PC performance and reviews. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.